The 2019 sequel, unfortunately, that shows us the second half of the story, when the losers all reunite at Derry in 2016 to fight Bill Skarsgård again as adults, was a failure. Chapter 2 is long and rambling, it's not nearly as scary, and the losers are able to defeat Bill Skarsgård again by simply overcoming their fear of him, but it seems to me that shouldn't have worked for them as adults. The whole reason that the white magic chose to unite 7 children to oppose Bill Skarsgård was that children have an innocence and a corresponding spiritual power that adults don't. In the book, the grown-up Jaden Lieberer has to travel into another dimension and defeat Bill Skarsgård in his primal form through a direct incorporeal confrontation, or something like that. Also, the adult part of the story seems to try to link Bill Skarsgård to social problems like domestic abuse and racism, and that's a confused, failed idea. Identifying an immortal, shape-shifting, interdimensional demon who finds people tastier to eat if they're scared of him as the cause of social problems like racism and domestic abuse, that seems to trivialize those issues, I'd say.
And let's not forget, Colonel, that understanding the construction of class means attending to a variety of conceptual frameworks, each of which recognizes that class is socially constructed through ideologies and institutions. PRF researchers have privileged the discursive framework, but at the same time argued that the discursive framework is rooted in the materialist and psychological frameworks. Materialist theories of class combine structural and institutional factors. These are the structure of class hierarchies. That is, PRF theorists argue that the consequence of class conflict are more than only discursive or psychological, but the result of education and political inequities across class lines. Now, the psychological frameworks assume that class identity emerges from a construction of class differences that accords punishment differently to the proletariat than to the bourgeoisie. Identity theories describe the psychological shift that occurs when the bourgeoisie move toward a fully committed form of atrocitarianism. PRF theorists discuss the distinct stages that the bourgeoisie passes through in the development of its class identity. The material and psychological frameworks, on the other hand, are important for understanding the deep-rooted nature of the class divide in the U.S. society, and in particular its educational institutions. However, we argue that the discursive framework is perhaps the most compatible framework for literacy research.
Are we still talking about IT Chapter 1?
What? No. I just thought it was interesting about the discursive psychological and material frameworks for understanding the construction of false class consciousness.
Oh.
That's a non sequitur, I know. It's just, I can't stop thinking about the revolution, you know? I love the revolution so much. And for any Americans who might be watching, remember, the day of your glorious leader, General Secretary F, will come like a thief in the night. The White House will disappear with a roar. Your Congress will be destroyed by fire, and the Supreme Court and everything done in it will be laid bare. Since the United States must be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be, Americans? You must live according to the General Secretary F manifesto, and you must work to hasten the arrival of my triumph. Know that the dread day will bring about the destruction of capitalism by fire, and imperialism will melt in the heat. But in keeping with this promise, we look forward to a new ideology and a new political order where atrocity reigns.